Hi everyone and welcome back to the Worship Fete. Now I'm sitting with Tom Fitzgerald and we've been discussing everything to do with the Ekklesia, going out on the street, the church, but that was just surface stuff in part one. In this part two, I really want to delve deep into this.
Okay.
Now I want to give you a bit of background on what's been happening in Wales before we jump in. So everybody that comes into Wales, well not everybody, but the majority of missionaries that have come into Wales have been of the Ekklesia or of the church.
Right.
Right?
Those are the choices.
Exactly. It's been a choice. So the Ekklesia people want to throw out the church, the established church, just get rid of it all. But the church don't want creative people having a say. They want to be one man dictating the pace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So where do you stand with the established church and the Ekklesia? Are you one that wants to get rid of the church? Or are you one that wants to, quieten down the Ekklesia?
Okay.
It's an interesting question.
Doesn't frighten me at all. Well, first of all, the Ekklesia is something that Jesus builds. It's something that it says in Hebrews chapter 3, he is our apostle and high priest. So he's the first one to come from heaven. He comes into this first heaven, this physical realm, via Mary to become a man, to identify with us. And he's bringing with him from heaven his Father's culture. To break the back of the culture of Satan and his principalities and powers. Yeah. So he is Ekklesia on steroids himself. He's that, and then he's going to build an Ekklesia that's modeled after the one of Rome. Yeah. So there's a few things about that I think are really, really misunderstood. First of all, I want to change personally the vocabulary, the meaning of the vocabulary. For instance, when we're talking about local church, we're not talking about Ekklesia. That's not the thing that he came to build, right. But it's the thing that he blesses, and that is it's a formation of family. The local churches are meant to be family gathering centers.
It all does.
It's where the bricks come together, the stones come together, and we interact with one another, and we love on one another, and we study the Word. The fivefold gifts are operating in these areas where you have the prophetic operating, and the apostolic planners and strategists, and the teachers and the pastors and the evangelists that we need to get out there and go to. That's all operating in this family. Right. But out of that, Jesus builds the Ekklesia. He builds the thing that takes down the spiritual government. Yes. It's a thing apart from the church that he builds. So it requires that we come into alignment with what he means by the terms that he uses. Yes. So if we think this is what he came to build, then we come up with these concepts that, well, the pastor, we have very pastor-oriented churches. It says the Ekklesia will be built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets. Yeah, that's right. These are things that the Bible says. I don't. So the pastor carries these expectations. Many times pastors don't even have a pastoral gift. Many times the one leading the group, the thing we call the local church, might be a teacher. And so you have people that come that want to just tell me what the Word says. You have evangelistic type pastors. So there's different personalities to the gatherings. If we understood that we were part of something that Jesus is building through the people, and that the people in the church, the individuals, not the clergy, not the hierarchy, but the people are the Ekklesia. They're the ones that understand the culture of business, of banking, of music, of the arts, of investment. They understand, they're in the world, they know the culture of that. And so they're to take in their lives and in their circle of influence, they're to be equipped by the fivefold to be the Ekklesia.
Yeah.
And that's where you have, and usually at the center of that, you have some sort of an apostolic figure that's a strategist, a father, not somebody with a title.
Yeah.
I've been a pastor for 30 years. Now I get to become an apostle. It doesn't work like that.
No.
So,
but we have a culture of churches that go to pastors who go to Bible college, and then they are a pastor of a church.
yes.
Regardless if that is what God has called them to, regardless of that, if that's their gifting to lead a church. And so that's then becomes, I've got to build the church, because now my success is based on how many people I've got in my church and on how many people I've got functioning as the Ekklesia.
Yes. And it's determined, the success of the Ekklesia is determined by the shift in the culture.
Right.
So we did not really realize that we were doing this at our church in Portland. We didn't have a name for it until we bumped into this Ekklesia. We were doing prayer walks through very dark areas and just proclaiming, we're agreeing with heaven that this is not this. We give it heaven's name. We proclaim heaven. This is what this place is. This is what this neighborhood is. You can go by any number of physical places in downtown Portland. One of them now is a boutique hotel. It used to be the central building for child sex trafficking. They were selling kids in there. We had a huge homeless youth problem in Portland. And the traffickers were just trafficking these kids through these places. It's a boutique hotel now. Wow. There was a place in a little geographical area in downtown Portland, and it's called, literally, the people on the streets call it the gates of hell. Yeah. And there's this huge occult witchcraft store there. And we just go by it, prayer walking it, and go, you don't have any right to be here.
Yeah.
We're taking this back. And then one day we're walking by and there's a lock on the door and they're gone. Wow. Drug deal places where the police would contact our pastor, because they knew we were doing things. Is there anything you can do about this? Oh yeah, we'll go there. And we continually do that. And then we send the people go out on the streets. And when we engage somebody, they're open to Jesus.
Right.
Whereas before they weren't.
No.
It is a spiritual battle. There are principalities and powers, and there are demonic spirits, and they are just as real as we are. And we want to keep them off to the side in what we call the church, because the church is meant to be a safe place. The Ekklesia is not it's a safe place when we're going with the mandate of Jesus, but it's not by nature a safe thing to be involved in. It's risky.
It is risky business.
It's very risky.
Well, but it was risky business for Jesus. I mean, meeting a prostitute at the well. If anybody would have seen that this man was at the well talking to a woman with a not great reputation, that was him done.
That was it.
That was end of the road.
Done.
Ministry chucked out, nobody's listening to him. But it was risky. He didn't care. The risk was worth it.
Yep. And the Great Commission, which the word commission means you enter into somebody else's mission. You're co-laboring with the person. So Jesus came with his mission, and then he hands it off at Pentecost to us. So now we have the Great Commission. We have this commission.
Yeah.
The command is not to go into all the world and make disciples. It's the verb there is as you go.
Yeah.
So there's an assumption that if you're a believer and you're a follower of Jesus, Mark chapter 16, this will be the sign for those who believe. The first thing they will do, first thing on the list, is you will cast out demons. And I'm like, hello out there when I'm speaking on this, when's the last time you can relate to casting a demon out or moving a demon out of something or a person or a place. And most people have not. And so that's the evidence that something is not going correctly.
Yeah.
And so when we get back to the idea of going to the streets, it's not just going to the streets is just good exercise and good practice to break down our fear and our inhibitions.
Yeah.
That's why we did that.
I think it was key for me, that was because I'm used to ministering to Christians, like the majority of Christians in churches. They can minister to each other, they can prophesy to each other, but put an unsaved person in front of me, and it's like, I don't want to say that just in case I offend them. Do you know what I mean? It is, though. It's rife, isn't it? And so even though I know that my calling is not to traipse on the streets and find people to minister to, as you go, as I am shopping, I am mindful that God may want to minister to someone here.
That's it.
And it's that mindfulness of every day, whatever I'm doing, I am aware that God needs to minister to someone. And if I'm the vessel to do it through, then I'm open to being the vessel to do it through. And I think if everybody had that same mindset, our culture won't look the same. Our churches won't look the same.
The cities will be transformed.
Exactly.
I don't get like a lot of like download words in church. I'm one of in the senior leader team there. We have a small church and all that. So I'm sitting there, they're talking about revival and praying, there's this subject of praying for revival. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, and God, I hear him go, no, I'm not sending revival. He goes, you do it. I raised my hand, I said, I've got a word. I say, God just spoke to me and he said, he's not going to bring revival. He's telling us to do it because we've got everything we need to do it. Yeah. If you have Ekklesia mindset, it becomes your DNA.
Yeah.
And then the church gathering places become testimony centers for all the people that are coming in from your workplace, from the schools, from the streets, out of addictions, and they start coming in. And then the government looks at that and they go, well, you're solving our problems. That's what happened with our church.
Yeah.
They made our pastor, when we had maybe 35 people in our church, we were just sending out teams to give out socks and stuff to homeless people. We called ourselves Can We Help, with a shirt on the back, and we became noticed. Eventually, early on, he became president of the Downtown Neighborhood Association of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
That's 1 million people city, and to build a skyscraper in Portland, you have to have the signature of the Downtown Neighborhood Association president. Yeah. They asked him to be the chairman of the Public Safety Committee. They were having all these problems, and they recognized that somehow he was bringing solutions to problems, so they kept inviting him into more and more decision-making. Where? In the government. Yeah. The Ekklesia is a government culture changing through the government organization.
Wow.
That's who we are. We're meant to go to the highest levels. We're meant to take back the banks. We're meant to take back the media and the arts and the films and the music. Mm-hmm. That is firmly in the hands of the devil right now.
Do you think then, right, there's a fear with pastors that they've got to try and make something happen in their congregation, not understanding that if they are equipping the saints, he will raise up the Ekklesia, rather than trying to force a whole congregation. Because let's be honest, there's going to be people who don't want to be the Ekklesia. They just want to come on a Sunday, feast, and go home. And that's fine. Just let them do it. They're all not going to want to be in ministry. They're all not going to want to go, on their daily walk and be mindful to minister to people.
Right.
They just don't want to be in their little world. Fine. That's fine. But do you think there's a fear breeding amongst pastors that a pressure, they've got to build the church.
Oh, yeah.
They've got to build the church. That's where their money's coming from.
Yeah.
So their bread is buttered.
It's called church growth.
And then when they've got a full church, all of a sudden that's revival.
That's,
Revival
unfortunately...
to me was Jesus with the 12 disciples.
You know what revival is for me? What the joy was when I was in that restaurant with this gal in Bath.
Right.
Bath. And so we bless her the first time, and the second time she comes back, and I go, "Do you know why you want to take a guess why we're here?" And she goes, "Well, what? Why are you here?" I go, "You know, I'm kind of an out-of-the-box, what you call Christian. You know what those guys are." She goes, "Yeah, I know." By now, she's comfortable because we've related. And I said, so we're here because we believe that Christians claim they have all this good news, but we keep it to ourselves. And I said, we're heading over to Wales after this, and we're going to encourage people to get out of the walls and take the good news that's residing in them out to their city and change it. She thought that was amazing. She goes, "That is beautiful. That is wonderful." She's just, and then the third round is when she came by, I said, can we bless you? And so in the middle of this busy, nice restaurant with everybody with their glasses of wine and eating properly, we're standing there with this waitress holding her hand, blessing her, and she looks up afterwards and she says, "You don't know how much that means to me. You don't know what you've done. I'm having problems at home with my husband right now." And I said, "That ends tonight. That ends tonight. Jesus is coming into your house, into your home." And that to me, that's revival for me.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of having a calm, normal life day on earth, and I had this encounter with this beautiful gal and was able to, and we've been doing that this whole trip since we've been here. In fact, one of the testimonies of what happened with our young, I call her Queen Victoria, Victoria Alexandra
Who's
Kent.
Welsh.
She's Welsh. She's Welsh.
She's Welsh.
So
With an American
there's
accent.
two gay guys standing there watching the event.
The outreach, yeah.
And they're holding hands, nails polished. Most Christians would have seen that and went, boom, the other way. Mm-hmm. She goes up to them and starts telling them about Jesus, and why we're here, this just making conversation. They're fine.
Yeah.
They weren't like, oh. And she starts crying. She just came out of nowhere. She just starts weeping. The tears are flowing down her face, and she goes, Would you forgive us Christians for how we've treated you? Yeah. That we haven't loved you like Jesus loves you. Do you know He loves you? And they were shocked. And she hugs them, and they hug her. They would not let her go. Mm-hmm. It was an embrace like. They met Jesus. See, we're not out there to go close all these. It's good to close a deal and get somebody saved. I'm all for that. Yes. But you have succeeded if you create an encounter with Jesus. When you go into a situation where there's great risk and there's fear to your reputation, He is attracted to that, and He will show up.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time. And then you'll find out that, oh, I get words of knowledge. I mean, it's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun.
But I'm going to stop you
but
here
it's
again.
Risky.
It's a risky business. And we're going to talk. I was only going to do 2 parts, but there's too much to talk about. We've got to do more. So we're going to come back for a third part as we need to go down this road of revival and risky business. Okay. Love it. We'll be back.
Amen.